Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namah Harihi Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagunthanavatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmita Shri Mukhim Vatsalyamritavarshiniim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapiniim Shyamangim Madhusiktasuktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Let us continue our discussion on Hanuman Chalisa. We've discussed so far the 15 verses of Hanuman Chalisa. The last week we were discussing about the 14th and the 15th verses, which talk about the various factors that we are in, how they could become conducive if we overcome ego through our humility, through our devotion. That's why all the various deities that the verses talk about, it talks about how they sing praises of Hanuman, who is an embodiment, who is a perfect example of someone who has overcome his ego through his humility, dedication, and devotion. So that's what we were looking at the last week. And this week, or today, we will look at the 16th and the 17th verses. The 16th and the 17th verses are referring to specific episodes in Ramayana involving Hanuman and his greatness associated with that. So today, unlike last week, would be more of story or incident oriented than just the spiritual principles that we discuss about. So the 16th and the 17th verses, they go as 16th. Tuma upkar sugrivahi kinha Ram milaya Raj pad dinha. And the 17th verse goes as Tumharo mantra vibhishan mana Lankeshwar bhai sab jag jana. So these are the two verses we'll discuss today. So let's, as always, start with the 16th verse. Let's try to pronounce it in 4 parts. I'll do it first. Please respond after me once, and then we'll do the whole verse once together. So please respond after me once. Tum upkar. Tum upkar. Sugriva hi kinha. Sugrivahi kinha Ram milaya Ram milaya Raj pad dinha Raj pad dinha. We'll do the whole words once together. Please respond after me. Tum upkar sugrivahi kinha Ram milaya Raj pad dinha. Upkar sugrivahi kinha Ram milaya Raj pad dinha. The 17th verse. Tumharo mantra. Tumharo mantra Vibhishan mana. Vibhishan mana. Lankeshwar bhai. Lankeshwar bhai. Sab jag jana. Sab jag jana. The whole verse, please repeat after me. Tumharo mantra vibhishan mana लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना, तुम्हारो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग jana. So those are the two verses. So let's look into the 16th verse. It goes as Tum upakar sugrivahi keenha. Tum, you, upakar, help, or to facilitate. You helped whom? Who? Sugriva. Sugriva, the supposed king of the monkey kingdom of Kishkinda. So you help Sugriva, keenha, did, or to do. So you did help, or you facilitated help to Sugriva, keenha, to do, or you did. And with your help, what happened? Ram milaya. Ram, Lord Rama, milaya. Ram, you made him meet Lord Rama. Or it could also be interpreted as milaya could also be interpreted as to obtain. So not just meet Rama at the mundane level, or rather to obtain Rama. Ram milaya. Rajpad Dinha. Rajpad, the Pad state. Rajpad, the royal or the kingly state, or the state of being the king. So you helped Sugriva acquire, or you helped Sugriva obtain Rama, and you helped Sugriva obtain the kingship, or to become the king. Dinha, you gave, or you made it happen. So with your help, Sugriva could meet Rama, or could obtain Rama in spiritual sense, and he could become the king. And then similarly, it's with Vibhishana in the 17th verse. It says, Tumharo mantra. Tumharo, your mantra. Mantra. Mantra, your words. It could be interpreted in two ways. Your words, whatever you said with a positive attitude, whatever you said with a positive intent, it becomes mantra. So your mantra, Vibhishana. Vibhishana is Ravana's brother. Vibhishana mana, he followed it. So Vibhishana followed what you told him, what you said. Lankeshwara bhaye. Lankeshwara, Lanka, Lanka's Ishwara, the Lord of Lanka, bhaye. He becomes, or he's known for, Lankeshwara bhaye, sab jag jana. Sab, all. Jag, the world. Jana, came to know, or knows him as, or came to know him as. So your words that Vibhishana adhered to, he came to know as the Lord of Lanka, or the King of Lanka. In both these cases, Hanuman is helping someone, or helping someone rise, helping someone elevate. So in this case, it is Sugriva and Vibhishana. So as it is obvious from both these verses, the underscoring point, or the spiritual impart of both of these verses is about good company. And Lord Hanuman is the perfect example for good company. When Sugriva and Vibhishana had the good company, or they made use of the good company of Lord Hanuman, they were both they were both taken to an exalted or a higher state. And when you say higher state, in both the ways, in higher state materialistically and higher state spiritually too. Materialistically, as the verses point out, both of them became the king with the help of Hanuman, or with the sankalpa, or with the intent of Hanuman. Both of them were exalted materialistically. They became the king of the land, king of the kingdom, and spiritually too. How? Because of Hanuman's company, because of Hanuman's advice, because of Hanuman's words, both of them came to Rama. they could take refuge in Rama. They obtained the Lord, they obtained Rama. Thereby, their life became selfless in nature. Their life became meaningful in nature. That is most important. They were exalted because their life, through the company of Lord Rama that Hanuman facilitated, became all the more meaningful, became all the more selfless in nature. So, the company of Hanuman is such, or company of a perfected being is such. On the sidelines, um, uh, my memory serves it right, it was about, I guess, about 28 years or so ago. I was much younger, and we had a chance. The children at the ashram had a chance to be around Amma, and I got to ask Amma about two things that Amma mentions. Amma used to specifically mention to the children, avoid bad company. So I would tell Amma, Amma, you say avoid bad company. And at the same time, Amma, you also say, look at only the goodness in others. So if you look at only goodness in others, where does the question of bad company come? How can both go hand in hand? Avoid bad company, at the same time, look at goodness in others. And Amma's response was, when Amma says avoid bad company, it doesn't mean you hate a particular individual. When Amma says avoid bad company, Amma says every person may have some negativity or the other, some shortcoming or the other, something that is not right or dharmic in nature. But Amma would never say you should hate the person for that. Hate the person's action. Hate that adharma. That is what you need to avoid. Amma would rather say, don't hate the person, rather hate his adharma and avoid his, Amma didn't say hate, Amma said avoid his adharma, his actions. But at the same time, look at the goodness in him and respect him or her for the goodness that they have. Because every being, every person has some form of goodness in them or the other. And Amma always gives the example of the broken clock. Every time Amma brings this topic up, Amma says a broken clock, even a broken clock which is completely useless, at least twice a day it shows the right time. So even a broken clock has goodness in it. If we really look for it and look at the right time, you exactly look at 6 o'clock, when the clock shows 6 o'clock, it is a useful clock, right? So when you look at it the right way at the right time, you can see, you can find the goodness in the person. So when Amma says avoid the bad company, we need to avoid the badness in them rather than to completely rule out someone from our life, is what Amma happened to mention to me. And I remember one of my experiences much later when I was doing my undergrad studies in Amma's university. One semester was dedicated to doing an internship, go to a company and get practical training in a company. So my field was software engineering. So I had to go to a software IT company, get trained for 4 or 5 months. So I had to go to the city of Chennai, which is one of the biggest cities in South India. And I had to be there for 4 months, and staying at the Chennai ashram was not practical because it was quite a bit of commute every day to do that. And some of my classmates actually happened to get a small apartment that they could rent together to stay right very close to, like 5-10 minutes bus ride to the company. So I had to finally decide to be with them. But, you know, they had a lot of qualities which I was neither used to nor not that I was agreeable to it. They would drink, they would have many other habits that they would be part of. That would be part of their regular life, smoking, drinking, and many other things. So I was always in this dilemma whether I should just reject them, hate them, and just move out of the house, or otherwise go by what Amma had mentioned when I was young, to look at the goodness in them, whatever little goodness in them, and be with them, looking at that, and avoid them whenever they venture into something that is adharmic in nature. And I tried practicing that to the extent I could. Whenever they were nice and they were normal setup, I would always be their friends. But whenever they would not be uh, the best of their behavior, best of the actions that they could be part of, I would just avoid that. And initially, they would probably make fun of me, etc. They were wondering why am I behaving like that, but eventually they also started understanding. They would respect me for what I am, and it just became. And we built a very good kind of chemistry between ourselves, though we were kind of poles apart in what our likes and dislikes were. And the friendship got to such a level that the next semester, when we came back, that was our final year of undergrad studies, we actually formed we initiated a project wherein we would go to the nearby government schools, which were very backward in nature, wherein the students were quite disadvantaged because of the lack of exposure that they would have. So we actually went to many of these government schools to give them career training, to tell them about all the opportunities that they have after high school. Some of them didn't even know that they could do anything other than just learning certain little things that they were used to. And I think that greatly helped all those children. So I thought this friendship that built out of understanding, respecting for what goodness, that little goodness they have and what little goodness they saw in me, it built up to such a level that we could start benefiting others through that. If I had just rejected them, telling these are guys I should not be around, brand them as bad boys or bad guys, and just move out, probably we would have not been able to do this little gesture of a social a small project of societal benefit. So I always remember this point that Amma mentions. Look at the goodness in everyone. When Amma says avoid bad company, avoid the bad deeds that someone is participating in. That's what you need to avoid. So that, in my experience, like I had mentioned, produced a positive outcome. But eventually, they would also come for seva during Amma programs in Coimbatore when Amma would visit Coimbatore. So it flowered up, it developed into a good a bond of friendship for good cause. But here we are talking about Hanuman. It's not Ramanandamrita or any mundane or a insignificant person. You're talking about Hanuman, who is the embodiment of goodness, who is the embodiment of someone who has overcome ego. So what about his company? His company would take you, a very, very long way. So that is the example we have here of Sugriva and Vibhishana, the way their life changed. So looking at Sugriva was the brother of Bali or Vali, B or V. He is referred to as Vali or Bali. So he was brother of Vali, who happened to be the king of Kishkinda at that point of time. Vali was a very powerful king, and hardly could he be defeated by another king or another warrior. And there is an episode where even Ravana, who was known for his might, had to escape once he confronted Vali. So he was as powerful. But with the power came ego. He was very egoistic. That was his main negative point. He had a very adamant character. He was boastful. Thus, he led a life which was not very righteous. There were many little incidents that people relate to explain Vali's or Bali's character. So he was not best of an individual to be a king, but he was the king of Kishkinda. And he would often get into a matchup with another warrior, etc. And once it happened, a demon called Mayavi, Mayavi basically means one who is an illusionist, one who can create illusion. So he challenges Vali for a duel, and they get into a fight that thereby. And Mayavi had a plan. He goes into a cave and hides himself there, and he knew Vali will follow him, and he had a plan. The moment Vali enters the cave just closes. So before Vali enters the cave, I'm just giving you the background story so that we understand why it is said that Sugriva became the king. So before Vali entered the cave, Vali very boastfully and very, confidently told his brother Sugriva, telling, wait here outside the cave for maximum 14 days. Within 14 days, I'll put an end to Mayavi and I'll come back victorious. If I don't come back in 14 days, consider me dead. That was the level of his ego. That was his level of his self, his confidence in his own self. So he says, if I don't come back in 14 days, consider me dead. And he goes in. And because Mayavi, as I mentioned, could create illusions, what he did, from inside the cave, he would make all these various noises as if Bali is screaming in pain. And then he made illusion as if blood is oozing out of the entrance of the cave. So when Sugriva is seeing all this, he's hearing Vali screaming, he's hearing blood oozing out, and after 14 days, he doesn't see Vali at all. There is no sign of Vali coming out. He decides, he gave me a word that he's going to be back in 14 days, and he was as mighty that he would keep up his words. And he didn't come back. So I need to now look after the kingdom, because it's my duty to move forward and look after the kingdom. So he goes back, he becomes the king. But what happens? Bali actually was quite mighty. He didn't lose against Mayavi, but he definitely went beyond his number of days that he had proclaimed that he'll be back. But when he comes back, he's extremely angry to see his brother, the king. He just couldn't take to see his brother to be the king instead of him. He calls him traitor, and he immediately tries to kill him. Doesn't even wait to hear the explanation that Sugriva had. And because he was so powerful, Sugriva was no match to Vali. He fled. He had to flee. And he took refuge on a small mountain called Rishyamukha Parvata, Rishyamukha mountain, because Vali had a curse by a sage called Matanga, telling he will have no access to that mountain. So Sugriva, the brother, was happy there. Not happy there, he was safe there, though he ever lived in a state of fear that one day or the other, Vali will some way or the other find a way to come and kill me. So that was the state Sugriva was ever living in complete fear, in complete lack of self-esteem, lack of courage, lack of self-confidence, and he was in that downtrodden state. And Hanuman happened to be one of his ministers, or one of his close aides, and most importantly, one of his wisest advisor. So this is the background. This is the setup when Lord Rama and Lakshmana walk into the scene. We have discussed this in the second session and once in one of the sessions otherwise, where Rama and Lakshmana are now seeking Sita. They are going in search of Sita, and they come into Kishkinda. And when Sugriva's aides tell him there are two able warriors walking into our region, Sugriva is all the more in fear. And he says they are assassins sent by Vali, and I'm going to flee. I'm going to run away from here. And if he ran out of Rishyamukha Parvata, his chances of surviving is even slimmer. But he couldn't think at that moment of time. He didn't have the capacity to think properly. That's when Hanuman asserts. As a matter of fact, these were Hanuman's first words in the scripture and the epic of Ramayana. And it begins with what? Don't worry. There should be no fear. That's how Hanuman starts. And that very well explains what Hanuman stands for. He is a form, he is a deity who teaches us, don't worry, there should be no fear. That's how he begins. And then he goes up the Rishyamukha Parvata and he watches Rama and Lakshmana come closer. And the moment he sees them, he realizes they don't seem like anyone with a negative intent. And he rather feels there's some divine thing about them. He comes and explains that to Sugriva. Sugriva, in his fear, is not ready to accept any of those. He says, no, they are here to kill me. He is in complete anxiety, complete state of fear. And he says, you go and check them out. You, disguised as a sage, go and check them out. We again discuss this. That's when Hanuman and Rama first meet. Hanuman is in disguise, and the way Hanuman spoke, he was so eloquent, he was so clear, so precise, so so much under control. Rama very well recognized this is not a alms seeker or like a sage or a poor person. He is definitely someone much bigger, greater than that. And Hanuman, when he sees Rama, he realizes this is no one here to hurt us, rather someone here to save us. And that's when Rama asks him, who are you? Reveal your true self. And then Hanuman explains the whole situation to him about Sugriva's sorry state. We discussed that in the very first session that we had. We were discussing about Ramayana, the second session. So now Hanuman brings Rama to Sugriva. He requests Rama to help Sugriva. And Rama comes to Sugriva. But Sugriva is completely scared, and Hanuman assures, no, they are here to help us. And then what does Rama tell him? Rama tells him, you challenge Vali for a duel, and you engage in a fight with him, and I will put an end to Vali when you are in a fight. And it happens so that he challenges. He had no guts to do it, but because Rama told him he will take care of it, he goes and challenges Vali, telling, hey, come out and fight with me. And they engage in a fight, and definitely Sugriva is losing. At that moment, Rama stands behind a tree. From a hiding place, he shoots at Vali and puts an end to Vali's tyranny. That's how the story goes. And because we discuss about it, the natural question comes, why did Rama do that? Why did Rama hide behind a tree to fire at a monkey, the monkey king? Maybe we can just spend some time discussing about that. I thought it was relevant just so as to understand the impart of dharma there. And then how Sugriva then became the king. So, if you look at it, Rama hid himself behind the tree and he shot at Vali. Definitely looks not very right. Why would Rama do that? So, when I think about it, when I try to assess it from my point of view, Rama did shoot at Vali, but after shooting at Vali, Rama did not escape. He did not try to run away from there. Rather, what Rama did was come out of his hiding space and approach Vali with humility and respect. The term used in Ramayana for this, in the Kishkinda Kanda, the term used is Bahumanya Shanaihi. Bahumanya with respect, Shanaihi, slowly, without showing any attitude of, challenging or confrontation. Very, very humbly, slowly approached Vali. And when I think about it, when we make a mistake or when we perform an action of adharma, the first reaction that we would have, or the first instinct that we would have, is to escape from that situation, right? I remember when we were young, India, the game of cricket is so prevalent. You would see it on the streets, you would see it in every apartment complex, etc. So we would also do that. And we would play, and invariably it happens most of the time that one of the player gets so excited with the bat, he strikes the ball so hard that it would fly up in the air, go and strike someone's window, and the window will break. And when the window breaks, next moment everyone disappears. Everyone runs away. That's how it is. It's very common. I'm sure you can relate to it if you have grown up in India. Probably that happens here with baseball. But everyone escapes. That's the natural instinct. But that was not how Rama was. He was very committed to what he did, and he knew it was based out of dharma. So that, at the first look at it, it just underscores that Rama thought about what he did, and he did things for the sake of dharma. That is my first thought when I try to assess this very situation. And then as he approaches Vali, Vali is still not dead, and he calls out or addresses Rama with all great words, like praising him. He says, "Hey, you who is so righteous, who is so dedicated to dharma, one who has complete control over your senses, complete control over your mind." Actually, they were all sarcastic comments. He was like, "You did something wrong, but I'm purposefully calling you in using the words that praise you, just to point out what you did was no way dharma." That's how the scene is. Vali calls out to Rama with all these great things, and he says, "My wife Tara had warned me that be careful of this person called Rama." And he said, "But I had so much confidence that you wouldn't do anything adharmic, so now I stand corrected because you did something that was adharma." He accuses Rama of standing or being on the side of adharma. And then, after he was done with all his ranting, Rama patiently waits and then responds. And when he responds, he starts with a question. He asks, who is asking this question? He's actually trying to point out to Vali about his own deeds. Just before that, Vali asks mainly 3 questions to Rama. He says, "I am a fruit-eating animal, a monkey. I never threatened you. I never came to invade your space. Then why did you kill me?" That was the first question he had. And second, he said, "I might have helped you to find Sita. I know you are searching for Sita. I might have helped you. Why didn't you come to me? Being the king of this land, why didn't you come to me seeking help? And why did you go to Sugriva?" His second question. And the third question was, "Who gave you the authority to kill me or to attack me?" So these were his 3 questions. So Rama's response, it is about 50 verses in the Kishkinda Kanda, the 18th chapter of Ramayana. Rama, he starts with, who is talking about dharma here? That is his response. He's asking, who? You need to first find the answer of who is talking about dharma here. You who least cared about moral principles, who least cared about prosperity of your subject, and who least cared about social conventions. You always lived per your whims and fancies. Fancies and whims, or whims and fancies? Whims and fancies. You always lived up to what you were very self-centric. What pleased you? You lived up to that. So, who is asking this question? So that's how Rama starts. And then he says, "You asked about my authority. Let me state, he didn't say," he was humble even there. He didn't say, "I am the supposed king of Ayodhya," because the dynasty of Ikshwaku covers a huge area. Ayodhya was just the kingdom, the capital. But Ikshwaku dynasty was huge. And all these little kingdoms of Kishkinda including were part of that. So he was the emperor of the whole region, supposedly. But he says, "I am the representative of the emperor of Ikshwaku dynasty, who is my brother, Bharata. So as his representative, I have the right to punish someone who has done something wrong." So your third question about who gave you authority, the rules of the Ikshwaku dynasty gives me authority to punish you. So that's the first response. And then he said, many of the deeds that you have done is adharmic in nature. And then you treated your younger brother, who you should treat like your son. You treated him like your enemy. You didn't come back. You didn't have the patience to even find out what the situation is. You went to kill him. And you didn't stop there. When he fled, you took his wife, Ruma. You took his wife as your wife, which is all the more a, a dharmic act. Because you, as per the scriptures, the Dharma Shastra, they say your younger brother, you should consider it as your son and take care of your brother, your younger brother. So if your younger brother is your son or like your son, your younger brother's wife is like your daughter-in-law. So you are father-like figure to her. Rather than protecting her, what did you do? You took her as your wife and you forced her to be your wife, and she lives in fear. So all that, along with many other things that you have done, is completely adharmic in nature. So I had to intervene as the representative of Ikshwaku dynasty, and I had to act. So what? And then you talked about why I never confronted you, I never threatened you, I never invaded into your this thing. Why are you why are you poking your nose into my business? And he said, it is not your personal business. You are the king of the Kishkinda kingdom. So whatever you do has an effect on the subjects, the citizens of your kingdom. So you can never say it's your personal business. When you're king, you're always a public figure. You are at service of your people. And when it comes to people, I have a responsibility towards them. So thus I acted against you. And he says, I gave my word to Sugriva and I had to keep it up. When we think of Rama giving word to Sugriva, Rama could very well have judged that Vali was a stronger individual than Sugriva. He would be much more helpful to him to find Sita than Sugriva. And here Rama did not act selfishly, telling, let me just go with who will help me better. Rather, he gauged what is dharma and then acted. So, I mean, in today's world, if you look at all the politicians and even in normal cases, satsang, sometimes I see two people will be very close friends and there'll be some problem that comes. The next year I go, the closest friends would be the worst enemies, and two enemies would have become close friends. And you really cannot explain how that happens. It just happens. And in politics, you always see that. One person has an alliance with another person, close with another politician. The next time, they just let go of that politician. They are close to someone else where they can find better opportunity. So Rama did not do that. He stood with where dharma is. He knew Sugriva was less helpful than Vali. Still, he stood with Sugriva. So he told him, I stood by dharma. Wherever there was dharma, I stood there and I acted. And as a matter of fact, Rama asks, Sugriva to go for a duel. He challenges Sugriva the first day, and they get into this fight, and Sugriva gets beaten black and blue. Rama never kills Vali, and Sugriva somehow escapes and comes back to Rama, desperate, asking, what did you do? You just betrayed me. I would have gotten killed. He said, I'm happy that you could escape the situation. I didn't want to shoot an arrow which would unnecessarily hurt anyone other than Vali, including you. So I couldn't make out the difference between you and Vali. You look very similar. So that's why I didn't shoot an arrow. Again, he's sticking to dharma, not to hurt anyone unnecessarily. So next day, he asks him to go back again to challenge him for a duel, and this time wearing a garland. So he can make out who is Sugriva, who is Vali. And then he shoots and Vali is shot down thereby. So even there, Rama shows his adherence to dharma, not to hurt anyone unnecessarily. So if he did hurt Vali, it was after he has given enough thoughts of what he's doing. And finally, the question of hiding behind a tree. Rama answers Vali, telling, I hid behind a tree and shot at you. That cannot be termed as adharma, because you yourself claimed you are an animal. And when a royal king goes for hunting in a forest, there is no rule or dharma, as per the Dharma Shastra, wherein it says the king has to come face in face with the animal and hunt it. So if you're really talking about going by books, I am not wrong, because hunting is done from a hidden spot in most of the cases. So you cannot say I am wrong. And if I really think about it, when I try to assess the situation, it's not just about hunting. It's also about Vali having a boon from Brahma. His boon was that anyone who confronts me, or is in a war with me, or is in a duel with me, I will get half of their power. That was his. And they become half and half and half and half and half. They become helpless, and they always lose. That's how Vali was so powerful, because of that boon. That no one can confront me, because the moment they confront me, half of their power comes to me. So Rama knew of that. So when Rama has to confront him, he has to do dharma. When we are in war, we have to look at what the enemy does and form a strategy accordingly. So he just formed a strategy. And there is nothing wrong in that. If he has that, he has a power to seep out half of your energy, then I would not go in front of him. The moment he looks at me, I lose half of my energy. So that is one way justified, because he has to do dharma to his situation there, the situation there. And two, Rama, being the avatar of Vishnu, incarnation of Vishnu, he could have very well surpassed Vali's ability to suck your energy out. But if he did so, what will happen? It will be injustice towards Brahma's boon. It will belittle Brahma's boon. So he had to do justice to that too. That Brahma gave him a boon, the boon better work. Otherwise, Brahma's boon will lose its value. So again, respecting that, he made sure he didn't come in front of Vali, and he shot him from behind the tree. So he explains all this to Vali, and finally Vali agrees. He realizes his mistake. He apologizes to Rama, telling, I'm very sorry for all that you've done. I remain corrected. I understand my shortcomings. And then Rama gives him a boon to be absolved from all his misdeeds, and thus, raising him, from his sorry state. So that's how the scene ends. And I don't have a reference to a particular scripture here, but it is also believed that Rama took all this upon him, because Rama's life otherwise is quite clean. This was one blemish that Rama took it upon him so as to uphold dharma. And two, it is believed that Rama, when he reincarnated, the next incarnation of Vishnu, Rama incarnates as, or Vishnu incarnates as Krishna. Krishna's final moment of letting go of his body was because a hunter, thinking when he was sitting on a tree, he thinks of his feet as an animal and shoots at it. And that brings an end to Krishna's physical existence. So the belief is that Vali then was reborn as that hunter and unknowingly shot at Krishna, wherein Krishna lets go of his physical body. So, Rama takes it upon him. He says, you do compensation for this. But again, I don't have a scriptural reference to that, so I'm just letting you know that there is this belief of this way, wherein Rama even takes that, telling you, I did this to you, you do that to me. I accept that. That was the level of his humility and his adherence to dharma. So Sugriva thus became the king thereafter. Rama crowns him the king. So having company of Hanuman, for Sugriva, who was otherwise ignorant, who was otherwise completely living in fear, who was otherwise materialistic in nature, not really spiritual in nature, being a monkey prince, when he came in contact with Hanuman through Hanuman's advice, he obtained Rama. He then dedicated his life to Rama in finding Sita, living for dharma, and there also materialistically he became the king of Kishkinda thereafter. So he was elevated in both the ways. And next is Vibhishana. It's a similar case. Vibhishana was very noble, but he was like the right person in the wrong place. He was born in the Asura clan, in the clan of the demons. He was Ravana's brother. So he had to walk this tightrope all the time because he was always torn between his devotion to his clan, his Asura clan, and his kingdom Lanka. But at the same time, he had this aspiration to be spiritually oriented, to be devoted to dharma rather. Because Asuras, the Rakshasas, they are egoistic in nature. Their dominant qualities are based out of ego. So their deeds, their beliefs may not be always dharmic in nature. Because he belonged to that clan and he was devoted to that clan, he had to, do justice to that. At the same time, he didn't want to do it. He wanted to be on the side of dharma. So he was always in that state of tug of war, pulled between both of these. And then we discussed how Hanuman goes to Lanka looking for Sita. We have discussed the episode. He goes to all the various rooms, all the various chambers in the palace, all the various houses, quarters around the palace looking for Sita. And he gets only the vibration of the Asuras, the Rakshasas, the negative feeling throughout because everyone is so self-centric. But then, except for one chamber or one quarters, the quarters of Vibhishana, from where he could get a positive feeling and he could hear the sound of the divine resonating from his quarters, and automatically Hanuman is drawn towards there and he finds Vibhishana. That's when Hanuman and Vibhishana meet, and Hanuman immediately recognizes he is a misfit here. He is the right person in the wrong place. And it seems they have a conversation there, and that conversation changed Vibhishana's life. That's why Tumharo mantra Vibhishana mana. Your words that Vibhishana adhered to or followed, Tumharo mantra Vibhishana mana, Lankeshwar bhaya sabu jagijana. Then he became, that led to him becoming the king thereafter. That's the 17th verse. Tumharo mantra Vibhishana mana, Lankeshwar bhaya sabu jagijana. So what was his mantra? What were his words? So he meets Vibhishana. He realizes he's a misfit there. So he asks him, what are you doing here? You should be on the side of dharma. I can see that you want to be on the side of dharma. So Vibhishana says, but I am devoted to my brother. I am devoted to my kingdom. So he had that attachment towards his brother and his kingdom. And Hanuman says, you have only two choices. You need to make the choice. Either you stay devoted to the kingdom and your brother on the non-righteous side, or you stay devoted to dharma on the other side. So you need to make the choice between your dharma, your personal dharma, wherein you want to be devoted to your brother and your clan, or you need to think of the bigger, greater dharma, which is for the goodness of the creation and the whole society. So you need to make that choice. So it's called Vyashti dharma and Samashti dharma. Vyashti is my personal space of dharma. Dharma only from my point of view. And then Samashti dharma is the dharma from the overall point of view. Lot of things can be justified from my point of view. I felt hurt, so I shouted at him. But then when we look at the bigger dharma, was it right? Is the question we need to ask. So we need to think beyond just my dharma. We need to think about our dharma or the greater dharma. So Hanuman asks him, you want to just stick to your dharma or you want to stick to the greater dharma? And then Hanuman leaves. That's all. That's his main advice that he gives. And this brings in a big change. He says, I need some time to contemplate on it. And Vibhishana did contemplate on it. And then we know Hanuman met Sita, and then he made himself get captured. We have discussed the sequence. And then he's brought to Ravana in the court, and Ravana orders that he be killed. And Vibhishana, out of his respect and compassion for Hanuman, he interferes and he advises Ravana, telling, we should never kill the messenger. That is wrong. And because he interferes, Ravana then orders that his tail be set on fire. And then we know Hanuman creates a havoc in Lanka. He sets the whole place in fire, and before he goes back to Rama. We know that story. But then Vibhishana is now pulled towards being in the side of dharma. But then he was also kind of still holding on to his personal dharma. So he decides the situation should compel me to go out, or rather, me deciding, let the situation, let the divine grace decide it. And it did happen later, wherein once, where there was this conversation in the court when Ravana was justifying his abducting Sita, and Vibhishana objected to that. He said, what you did is not right. And when he pointed that to Ravana, Ravana got very agitated with his own brother. He said, you get out of here. Get out of this court. I banish you from this kingdom. Get out. And in the fit of in the fit of rage, or the spur of that moment, he asked Vibhishana to get lost. As a matter of fact, that was the beginning of Ravana's downfall. Vibhishana left Ravana, and then he comes to Rama, and Rama welcomes him. There was initially some level of objection from others around Rama, but Rama is convinced that Vibhishana has come with the right intent. And when he first sees Vibhishana, he refers to Vibhishana as Lankesha. He calls Vibhishana Lankesha. Lankesha basically means the Lord of Lanka, Lanka's Isha, Lankesha. He refers to Vibhishana as Lankesha. So that is why Tumharo mantra Vibhishana mana, the 17th verse, Lankeshwar bhai sab jag jana. Vibhishana heeded your words, and then he came to be known as Lankesha, or he came to be known as Lankeshwara, Ishwara of Lanka, the Lord of Lanka. And once Rama defeated Hanuman, thereafter Rama crowns Vibhishana as the abled king of Lanka thereafter. Of course, the question arises, once Rama defeated Hanuman, Rama could have just become the king. That's how it happens, right? Kings invade. Pardon? Oh, sorry. Rama defeated Ravana. Sorry for the slip of tongue. Once Rama defeated Ravana, he could have very well become the king. It seems, there is the part wherein Lakshmana asks Rama, why couldn't you have become the king? It's all the more better that you become the king here. That's when Rama says, Api Swarnamayi Lanka me Lakshmana, na me Lakshmana rochate. Api Swarnamayi Lanka na me Lakshmana rochate. Though Lanka is Swarnamayi, is just decked with gold. Lanka was known for its beauty, its materialistic beauty. It was so encapturing, it was so very well planned and built, and it was just built with gold. It was completely made out of gold. So Swarnamayi Lanka, this golden Lanka, na me rochate, doesn't interest me, doesn't bring any kind of feeling in me, Lakshmana. And he says, Janani Janma Bhumischa Swargadapi Gariyasi. Janani, mother, Janma Bhumi, the birth land, the land where I am born. So Janani, the motherland where I was born. Swargat, Swarga, heaven. Swargat, compared to Swarga, or when you say Swargat, it is compared to Swarga, or in comparison with Swarga. Swargat, api gariyasi, gariyasi, one that is much more superior, one much more higher. So the birth land is much higher than even heaven. That's the response Rama gives to Lakshmana. He says, this Lanka, the golden Lanka, doesn't interest me at all. The motherland where I was born is even greater than heaven. And he crowns Vibhishana. Again, Rama showing the quality of not being attached to, he could have very well become the king and no one would have questioned. That's per the norm. But he makes Vibhishana the king, and then he goes back to Ayodhya thereafter. So here to Vibhishana, it all began with him meeting Hanuman. That's when he actually got direction to go the righteous way. And thereafter, he fought for Rama's side against Adharma, Ravana's side. And then he became, as well as he became the king of Lanka, he also became someone who led a life that was righteous, completely righteous, and he was never torn apart between the adharmic asuras and dharmic suras. He could openly lead a dharmic life as the king of Lanka. So Hanuman's company brought that up for him. So we will. So those were the points. Just the last. If you can just show the tables like we discussed the last time. We have 2 more minutes, so we'll quickly. I just wanted to show, like I'd mentioned, I've just put together a table at the end of the slides. I mean, it's part of every day, every week that we discuss. In case you don't have access to the slides, the email that goes out announcing the weekly discussion has a link to all the slides. So you can access it from the email. So the email that went out today, you can access it. If you don't get the emails, you can email us at macenterec for East Coast, macenterec@gmail.com. We will add you to the Google groups. That way, when you get the email, there is the link for all the slides in that email, the announcement email. So I put together a table wherein we get the impart of the spiritual impart with respect to bhakti, with every verse that we discussed. So please go over that. This is what I was mentioning the last week to some of you were asking, what was I referring to? This was the table. So if you go to today's verse, if you go 2-3 slides down, today's verse 16 and 17, we discussed about good company as part of our path of devotion, bhakti yoga. What is important, or what is the impart from today's discussion? To maintain good company, because good company will always help us grow spiritually, to help develop our good qualities. And when you talk about good company like satsanga is very good, but good company of a Mahatma, good company of a perfected being is all the more effective. So to have a Mahatma, company of a Mahatma, like the example of Hanuman in case of Sugriva and Vibhishana, once they had his company, their life completely changed. So the 16th and the 17th verses that we discussed is about good company, and all the more, the company of a Mahatma is the best that we should seek for. So I thought I'll just mention that. We'll conclude the discussion part here. We'll sing the Hanuman Chalisa. Give us a few minutes, couple of minutes, and we will set up the mic and we'll sing the Hanuman Chalisa together. Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुरु सुधारि बरना रघुबर बिमल जसु जो दायक फल चारि बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरा पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेस जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम जय हनुमान सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम जय हनुमान सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाय संजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावै अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावै सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद संत अहिसा जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते कभी को विद कई सकै कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम जय हनुमान सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम जय हनुमान तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लाधि गए अचर जनाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो आपै, तीनों लोक हाँकते कापै। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावै, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावै। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावै। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, है परिसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि निधि के दाता, असबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहा रघुपति के दासा। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावै, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावै। अंत काल रघुबरपुर जाय, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाय। और देवता चित्त न धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटै मिटै सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूट ही बंधे महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़ै हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साकी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजे नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। कीजे नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरण, मंगल मूरति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। ओ माता सीता की जय, ओ भ्राता लक्ष्मण की जय, ओ माता सीता की जय, ओ भ्राता लक्ष्मण की जय। भरत और शत्रुघ्न की जय, भरत और शत्रुघ्न की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु, लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु, लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः